This session will also be on live streaming on our Facebook page.
Ah, nice. Which is the name of the page?
Remark Asia.
Remark Asia. Find you.
I'm gonna share
And
it.
in this moment we are on live? No.
Yeah, just live.
Ah.
Halo Pak Tukiono. And there is Shelton CB from GLF alumni too. Shelton is from
I will share it in the Tres Colibris page also in Facebook.
Yeah, great. 3 Colibris. Maybe you will have
Yes.
you will introduce us
Three
to,
colibris. Sorry?
yeah, you will introduce your organization to us, right? You will introduce Colibris to us later in the presentation. Halo Pak Aris.
Halo juga Bu, good morning.
Morning. Good morning and good evening.
Good health, selamat sehat. Ya kan selamat senang, selamat sehat dan good health gitu kan, selamat sehat gitu kan.
Aduh, good health.
Sekarang kan lagi zaman corona kan selamat sehat dulu, yang penting sehat dulu kan.
Happy and healthy. Agradecemos. So there are 2 GLF alumni here in the audience. It's Crystal and Shelton CB.
And where are they from?
Shelton is from India, Kerala, India. And Crystal from Mexico, I think. Mexico. Yeah, Mexico.
Ah, nice.
It is 5 minutes till the session, and is joining us here our President Director from Remark Asia, Pak Dwi Muhtaman. He is just joining us. Halo Pak Dwi.
Hello, Elma.
Hey. How is your feeling today, Pak?
Oh, good, good. Hi, Anna.
Hello. Good
Hello.
morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for your kind presence this morning. How are you?
Thank you so much for the beautiful invitation to be part of this event.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Where are you in this moment?
I'm in Bogor, the same office with Hilma. Bogor is approximately 1.5 hours from Jakarta. We in our town we have well-known Bogor Botanical Garden. It was
Wow.
heritage from during Raffles colony. So it's good to have a Bogor Botanical Garden, approximately 60 hectares. Botanical gardens, quite big in center of the town. So yeah, we are lucky to have that remaining forest in the area like Bogor. Bogor population probably like 700 or 800,000 people. And then outside Bogor, more populated areas, probably. So Bogor consists of 2 district town, these areas, and we call it district, city and district.
And which is like the main crop that you grow in Bogor?
The main club, what? Football club?
Crop. Yes, like the main food that you grow in Bogor.
The main food of football.
Crops.
Yep.
Crops.
Tanaman pangan.
Crops, we have sweet potatoes. Actually, it's very well known. Not sweet, but apa ya? Apa namanya, Hilma? Itu apa?
Honey potato.
Bukan. Bogor kan talas.
Talas.
And not sweet, but it's root fruit. I think is well known also in Latin America. So we grow that kind of fruit.
Taro or something.
Yeah, like
Which
of
one?
taro. Yeah. Taro, like taro.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
not so common, you know?
Yeah, it's a big round
Yes,
fruit
it's
plant.
like similar to the cassava.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like a cassava. Yeah.
Nice.
So many people who visit Bogor usually buy that fruit as a gift from Bogor town.
Yes.
And also
the
we have
first time that, sorry?
also in addition to that we have local mie goreng, bukan mie goreng, apa tuh? Yang mie, Hilma, mie
Noodle.
yang apa namanya itu? Yang populer di Bogor, toge goreng. Toge goreng is also very popular culinary food in Bogor. Toge
What is
goreng
that, like a fruit?
Toge goreng, mix of vegetables and also noodles, and added with the type of vegetables is toge. What is the toge?
Nice.
Yeah, it's a traditional food. It's very spicy.
And I guess that you eat a lot of rice.
Oh yes, rice is our daily staple food. So even during breakfast, no breakfast without rice.
Really?
So, yeah, breakfast we have rice, lunch we have rice, and also dinner we have rice.
Yeah, here in Latin America, but especially in Colombia, after when the Spanish people came to our region, the rice consumption became really, really popular, you know?
Yeah. Oh, okay. But that's become a problem in Indonesia because then many indigenous people very dependent on rice. They changed the food, the staple food from others to rice. Because, for example, in other part of other island Indonesia, initially these indigenous people does not eat rice. Instead, they eat a lot like sweet potatoes or even potatoes. But then, because government introduced rice to this region, then rice become become their daily staple food,
Yeah.
and they're very dependent on rice. While locally they cannot cultivate the rice because they have no knowledge and skill to cultivate, so they have to import it from other islands. And this, I think, destroy the indigenous people staple food, which is, in my perspective, is not good. Yeah, that's the challenge.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Padwi. I think we're gonna start now with the introduction because it's past 3 minutes after 10 a.m. and it's almost midnight there in Anna's time. So it's crucial to be perfectly on time now. Great. And also we have here Yusuf from Nigeria and it's 4 a.m. there.
Wow.
He did a little sleep just to watch us in perfect timing. Great.
Also, Crystal from Mexico.
From Mexico and Shelton, they are the alumni of GLF and I'm inviting them through our WhatsApp group. And here they are. Thank you very much for joining us today. So everyone, good morning and good evening, good early morning from all different parts of the world. We are here today to do another session in Asia Institute of Knowledge. Welcome. I'm so happy to have this session today with Anna. Thank you, Anna, for being with us here today. And here we are gonna learn about how to encourage sustainable consumption in our community, in your community, with shared experience from Latin America. Here we are speaking as a facilitator, maybe, who help connect the community with the outside world to fulfill their daily need in sustainable ways. And Anna here is from Colombia, right? Hi. It's an honor to have you here because in her time, it's 2 hours before midnight. So yeah, it's very special that she has agreed to do the session in our time zone in Indonesia. Anna and we met in Global Landscape Forum Digital 2020 in one of the breakout sessions of facilitated networking. Well, now I want to know first, how is everyone here in the audience feeling right now? So I'm gonna launch the poll in your screen. Please, everyone, pick it for me. How is your feelings right now? Are you happy, angry, sad, or you just can't decide? Totally understand. So, okay, can decide. I will wait for 1 minute, 30 seconds. Because it's important to be, there is, okay, 87% has voted, so I'm gonna just end this. And here is the result. So 81% of us are happy And there is one person that is still sad this morning. Well, I hope after this session you will be a little bit happier, and some other can decide. So yeah, it's okay. I think that's a great mood for learning, because I want to introduce everyone here in the participants and the organization before we get to the main session. And my name is Hilma Suciandari Lahai. You can call me Hilma. I am a learning facilitator in I Know, and I will be your host for the next 2 hours. So yeah, bear with me, guys. Our speaker here is Anna. She is the founder of Three Colibris, an organization and media that contributes to the conversion and logistics of agriculture product in Latin America. Anna will introduce herself before her presentation. And I also want to introduce you to my co-host today. It's Mbak Loli. Hi, Mbak Loli. Can you please turn your video on?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mbak Loli will help with
Yeah.
Hi. She will help with administrating the audience and regulating the noise from participants. And also, there is our President Director here, Pak Dwi Muhtaman. Good morning, Pak.
Morning. Thank you very much, Hilma.
Thank you for joining us today too, Bu Santi Libriana in the audience. She is our marketing manager in Remark Asia. Bu, you there?
Hello, good morning.
Morning, you great?
Yes, can decide.
Can decide. So she is one of the can decide. Okay, thank you. And I also will give you a brief introduction to I Know and Remark Asia, because most of you have already familiar with who is I Know, but some of you is the first in here in joining the session here. So let me share my screen. Yeah. So I Know Asia Institute of Knowledge is, okay, what is wrong with this? Is an official training provider, especially for HCV or HCS, lead assessor. HCV is high conservation value and HCS is high carbon stock. Both are officially endorsed by HCV Resource Network in England, in Oxford, I guess, and high carbon stock approach. Also, we provide other subjects training related to sustainability for plantations company. I Know is part of Remark Asia. Remark Asia is a consulting company for sustainability issue, specialized on sustainability for plantations under certification schemes. We are established in 2014, 3 years after Remark Asia was established. And our 3 main courses are high conservation value, lead assessor, carbon stock, and social impact assessment. We have provided in-house training in Jakarta, Kalimantan, Sumatra, and Papua. Mostly talk about HCV management, social impact assessment, community engagement, and assistance to certification schemes like ISPO, LSPO, principle, and criteria. However, due to this pandemic, so we should cancel all of our training schedules, but we still want to make ourselves useful by conducting this online session. We deliver this training, so hopefully everyone is benefiting from these sessions that we made. The info about I Know's program schedules, you can see it in remarkasia.com. It's our website. And Instagram. Mostly we do interactive discussion in Instagram, Insta Story is a perfect way to do that. And also we have community in WhatsApp group. I know community in WhatsApp. That is the short and the brief intro to the organization. So I'm gonna ask you to pay attention for the rule of the class. Please, everyone mute your video and mute yourself off and video off during the presentation. And if you have some insight or some questions, you can put it in chat box or raise your hands, and we will spare some time for 3 minutes up to you to introduce yourself and give the question. And the last 30 minutes will be used as Q&A and discussion session. Also, to get e-certificate, you can take screenshot for the session today and upload it to the form and in chat box or in the guidance form, guidance document that I have sent by email. And I will give you a head start on the participants today. There are people from all over Indonesia are watching us here today from Sumatra, Kalimantan, Sulawesi, and Papua, and that's me. Maybe is that correct? If that's correct, I'm in Bogor, around an hour from Jakarta, the capital city of Indonesia. And from another part of the world, there are people from Japan, Mexico, Kerala, India, Ecuador, and Nigeria are watching us today. So hi, everyone. And most of them, the background, and here is the background to the participants. There are sustainability staff. Of course, it's in the plantation companies. So they are dealing with the communities around their plantations, and it is mostly in remote area in Indonesia. Sustainability project manager, conservation staff, and sustainability consultant. Also, there are lecturers, teachers, university students, CSR officer, and specialists of remote sensing and biodiversity. And hello to the fellow GLF alumni. It's very nice for you to join us here today. So yeah, I guess that's pretty much it about the introduction from me. And I want the participants to show their face, but when I call your current state. So maybe if I call siapa yang dari Sumatera, please turn your video on. And then we will do some quick photo session in style of 2020. Okay, let's start from Sumatra then now. I recognize this one. Pak Jo, hi Pak Jo. Everyone from Sumatra, please turn your video on. We're gonna have some photo session. Sumatra?
Okay. Yes, hello.
Hi. Okay then. Let's take a photo. 1, 2, 3. These are the people from Sumatra. And then,
Beautiful.
okay, thank you. Next, I'm gonna call the people from Kalimantan, Sulawesi, and Papua. Are you there? Kalimantan, Sulawesi, and Papua. Wow, hi. Hi. I recognize those. These are the people that are quite often joining us. Okay, let's take a photo. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. And from Jabodetabek, it's Jakarta, Bogor, Depok, Tangerang, Bekasi. What else? Around Java and around Java. Wow. These are the people who are near with close to the capital city of Indonesia. Wow, I recognize this one. Hai Kak Puji, Mas Bebe.
Halo Mbak Irma.
Okay, let's take a quick photo. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. So, because Indonesia is separated into different islands, therefore we have different communities, different tribes, cultures, traditions. We have different characters, but despite of all the differences, I hope that everyone here as a facilitator can benefit this session to apply to the community around you. So I think everyone is now excited to do the session. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ana Prada. Ana, the spotlight is yours.
Thank you so much, Hilma. Well, before I start, I would like to give you like a brief context of my country. Maybe you don't know so much about Colombia. We are located in Latin America. Our main language is Spanish, and we are located in South America. Let me show you in a map, because normally when I talk with people which are from other countries, they don't know where is located Colombia. So I want to show you a map. Wait. Okay. I am sharing a screen with you.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a little slow. Yes. So. Yes, here we are. So, as I told you, we are located in Latin America, and our location is very strategical because we are surrounded by the Pacific and the Caribbean Ocean, and we are one of the most biodiverse countries in the world. In our country, we have the 10% of the biodiversity of the world, and we have a lot of different species of birds. Our main production is the coffee, and I really invite you to try the Colombian coffee. And also our diversity have become a reason to have one of the longest armed conflict in the recent history. Like 4 years ago, we signed the peace accords between a guerrilla and the national government, and these have been very important, and this is very related with the topic that we are going to talk about, which is sustainable consumption, because the role of the local producers have been very important, and I think that this is very important to understand our reality, because this conflict has defined in an important way our history the way we behave, and a lot of traditions that we have here in Colombia. That was just to give you like a brief context about my country, and to give you also a brief context about Tres Colibris, which is the organization that I founded 5 years ago. Hilma made a great presentation about us, and what we do is to connect the producers with consumers through histories, through the accompany to local producers, because normally the people in the street, in the cities, doesn't know where they can find local, sustainable, and healthy food. So what we do is trying to connect them. That's what we do. And now I will show you what are we going to talk about during this panel today. We are going to talk about how to encourage sustainable consumption in community, and I am going to share some experiences, very, very local experiences. I will be focused my interest in Bogota and in Colombia experiences. Maybe if you want to know more about Latin American experiences, we can have a conversation later, but today I just want to focus in a very local level. And something very interesting is that we have like 2 different movements in this moment in Colombia with all this COVID crisis, because the government is, the national government is supporting the exportation to bring food from other countries, which is affecting our food sovereignty, but the local producers and the local consumers are supporting the community and the local food production, despite the decisions that our national government are taking. People in the cities, in the rural places, are preferring the local consumption. And this is a very common thing, not only here in Colombia, but in Latin America, and I could say that worldwide. People is more interested to find healthy, local, and sustainable food. People is more interested in the origins of the food, and this is a great advantage for people who is interested in the promotion of local and organic production. So we are watching in this moment that there are new ways to inhabiting in cities. The people, as I said before, is more curious about find sustainable food, more curious about the connection between the roots, the identity, and the food. And this promote the construction of closer relationships between the food that we are consuming and their origin. And this is encouraging new ways of relationships between the people, and also new ways of have new relationships with the origin of the food that we are eating. So today we are going to have like 5 moments. First, we are going to have like a reflection activity. That's why I asked you to answer one question before in Mentimeter, and a lot of people asked that, so the reflection is going to be very interesting. Then I am going to give you a contest about sustainable consumption in community. Then I will present you some local strategies that can be seen not only in Bogota, but also in Latin America. I am going to share some local experiences, and then we are going to have a space to share questions or comments that you have. And I think that something very interesting about this space is that we come from very different places, so we can have very rich conversations about what is normal in our local places. And I have read that Indonesia have had a big influence in the food traditions in Oceania, in Timor, in a lot of countries in that part of the world, also in the southeastern of Asia. So I think that's very interesting, because also in Colombia we have received a lot of influence from all over the world, and that's why our cuisine is so diverse. So to start, I asked you the question, where does the food that you eat yesterday comes from? And I really recommend you this tool, Mentimeter. The majority of the people eat the food from the market. This is very interesting. 22 people answered this question. The second one was the traditional market and my wife cooking. I find this very interesting, the recognition of the wife cooking. Then supermarket and online. Then we can see a lot of different options, Teman, garden, meat, rice, Indonesia, local stakeholders, indigenous farmers, fish collector, Kapal Apple Coffee Company, local markets, Waruk, my garden, that's nice, farmer, kitchen, and I think that something very interesting is that we can see like two different origins of the food. One is related with the big industry, like the agro industry, where normally the connection with the origin is less, you know, because there are more intermediation between the origin of the food and the people who is eating that food. And the other one is the local market, where you can have a direct contact with the producer, you can know the origin of the food, and we can see this all over the world, you know, like these two, how to call it, like two lines of origin of the food, and this is like a trend worldwide. So this is very, very interesting. Online, yes. Okay, nice. So let's continue. Reflection activity. Yes, I would like to give you a brief context about all this trend that we are watching right now about the sustainable consumption, because something that we are watching in this moment with the virus is that people is more interested in know the origin of the food because of different motivations. Some people is because they want to have a healthy diet, other because they want to lose some weight, other for political reasons. There are a lot of motivations why people want to know where does the food come from. And this is such a great opportunity for local producers. And something very important is that local producers are able to share the stories, not only to guarantee the quality of the food, but also to share the stories. For instance, here is very, in Colombia, it's very common that the peasants, the small farmers develop, like, we can say, like marketing strategies to let know to the consumers all the story of the food. Like, I don't know, the local coffee that you are drinking that comes from a small farm, and tell the story, because the story can move emotions, and through the emotions you can encourage people to be more conscious about the food that they are drinking. This is not only a healthy thing, but also that can be a political action to support the local producers. So I identify three things that are very important to understand this context. This one, sorry, because it is in Spanish, but here goes rural identities, and it is related with the emergence of the importance of the identities. So with May in the 68 in France, with all the gender revolution, people start to be conscious not only about the economical classes differences, but also the gender, the racial difference that also have become like an opportunity for others to legitimize the power. So we start to see that the indigenous identity gain more importance in the social and in the political debates in all over the world. And La Vía Campesina, have been a very important movement to support the peasant communities, what we call in Spanish, identidades campesinas, which is the rural producers of food that in Colombia they don't identify as indigenous or African descendant, because something very interesting about my country is that we're the second country in Latin America with more African descendant population. The first one is Brazil. And because during the colony, a lot of people came from Africa to work here, and then Colombia became their homeland. This is very interesting because we have such a huge African heritage, and that's why our mood, our Latin American mood is, I could say that is so happy, so I don't know, like easygoing, is because all this huge influence. So we have, as I told before, the indigenous, the African descendant, but we have a third identity who was not identified with this one, and they were the campesinos, the peasant. We can say that the farmer, but they don't identify only because of their economical activity, which is producing local food. They also identify with their traditions, their heritage. So they are part of La Via Campesina. This is a worldwide movement which started in Belgium in the 90s, and they have become very popular because when the FAO, the Food Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, was supporting the concept of food security, La Via Campesina started to support also the food sovereignty. And this is very important because normally in the North perspective of food, they used to say like, it is enough if you eat the amount of calories that you need to be healthy. But all these movements start to say, it is not only about the calories that you eat, it's also about the access to land, it's also about to have the right to access to food that is also culturally appropriated, you know, because food also gives us identity. So I think that something very beautiful that the Latin American agriculture gave to the world is remind that the agricultural activities are not only economical, but also cultural, and they can support to conserve the environment. And it's very important, the small farmer agriculture, the small agriculture have a very important role in the fight of the climate change. So this is the first important part. Also the sustainability in 1072, there was a scientist which his last name was Meadows, and he became very famous because he published a book named The Limits of Growth. And in that moment, he started to give a very important critique to the capitalistic model. And he said, like, we cannot still producing and consuming as we have limited resources, because the environmental costs are going to be bigger even than the economical cost. The majority of the big companies didn't listen to this guy, but organizations from the United Nations start to listen to this guy, and a lot of scientists that was saying that we have a big risk with the climate change and a lot of damages in the environment. And in this moment, with the crisis of the COVID, we have realized that the climate change is a real threat, you know. And the third one is the globalization that have like a big impact in the food systems, because normally with the globalization, we start to see more standardization in the food, and this is a problem because we start to eat, for instance, McDonald's, Burger King, Pizza Hut, all those food and we start to forget our traditional food. And this is not only a thing of, as I said before, like health, this is also forget our roots, because there is something very beautiful with the food, and is that it can give us identity and roots. Like when you remember, I don't know, the dishes that you used to eat when you were a child, that you remember probably your mother, your grandmother. And if you talk with everybody, it's very interesting because you can remember different dishes. If you ask me, I remember a lot of traditional dishes from my region that they were prepared from my grandmother, and I cannot find that in McDonald's or these huge companies of food. And the other problematic thing about the globalization of the food systems is that became bigger the distance between the origin of the food and the food that and the people who is eating the food. And this is very concerning, because if I feel very far from the origin of the food, I don't care if it was produced in a sustainable way or not, in a social justice way or not, if the people who is producing that food was exploited, or if they had good labor conditions. I don't care about that because I feel that very, very far. Is the opposite that what we are going to see later when you are participated in a local production system, when you can talk with the producer and you can understand their challenges, and even you want to support because you can empathize with them easier. So this is like three elements, three factors to understand the context of the sustainable consumption all over the world. I mean, this is a worldwide phenomenon, but of course they take different shape according the places and the local realities. Now, I would like to talk about what is the meaning of local, because sometimes when we are supporting the local consumption, we are not sure about what we are supporting. And I think that it's very, very interesting to have these reflections. There is a geographer who is from United States, Jared Diamond, who had very interesting studies about the origin of the food. And he used to say, like, there is a place in Asia that he calls like the how to call this is like the origin of the majority of the food that we eat in this moment was developed in this place that is marked with green, which is in Turkey, what now is Syria. So the people in those places a lot of years ago developed the seeds of the majority of the food that we are eating in this moment, but they are not the only ones who are like the world center of production. In Latin America, there are some communities who also developed important food for us, and that now with the globalization became also important food for other regions in the world. So in Mesoamerica, we used to have the Mayas communities, and they developed a great agricultural system, and it's very beautiful because if you have the opportunity to visit Central America and Mexico, you can find the most beautiful stories about the local and the ancestral knowledge of agriculture, because they were guided by the moon and the sun. So they knew when it was time to grow food and when it was time to make harvest, only because of the cycles of the moon. And in Mesoamerica, they develop the corn, the beans, the squash, and the cocoa, which now are very popular all over the world. So it is very interesting because normally we don't know the origin of the food that we eat every single day. So the first seed that it was like domesticated came from Mesoamerica. In Los Andes and the Amazon region, which is part of them, Colombia is part of the Andes and Amazon region, but also we share with Brazil, Peru, Ecuador, Bolivia, part of Chile. They developed two very important crops, which are very, very popular all over the world, which is the cassava and the potato. And this is very interesting because one of the most traditional dishes in England is fish and potato. And one of the most traditional dishes is made with a seed that was not even produced in that part of the world. And this is very, very common, you know, because the migration of the seeds, the exchange of knowledge is very important in the development of the historical food systems. The potato was domesticated, especially with the Inca indigenous communities a lot of years ago, and now it's very popular all over the world. In Ethiopia was developed the coffee that now is very popular in Latin America. If you go to Mexico, Honduras, Nicaragua, Guatemala, Cuba, Colombia, Ecuador, Costa Rica, you can find a lot of coffee producers. And normally we don't know where does the seed comes. And when the Spanish people made the colonization in Latin America, we have one of the biggest exchange of food that the world had never seen. A lot of seeds came from the Middle East, and also they bring seeds from us. And also China have gave us a very important seed, which is the rice. And before we start this conversation, we were talking about the rice, and I was asking you if you eat rice as well, because this is not a traditional crop in our region, but now it's very popular also to find rice in the breakfast, in the lunch, in the dinner, especially in the rural places, because you can eat a huge amount of rice. It's not so expensive, and it gives you a lot of calories. So it's super popular in the rural Colombia. And also from Europe, we bring to Latin America cows, chickens, and pigs. They came from this part, not from Europe, but they came to, they arrived to Colombia thanks to the production of them who came from Europe during the colonization. And to end this part of the reflection, I wanted to talk about a very traditional dish in my city. As I told you before, we live in a very cold city. It's one of the highest capitals in Latin America. I think after La Paz, we are 216 meters over the sea. So it's very, very, very cold here. And that's why the soups are very common in Bogota. You know, like we have a lot of different soups because of the weather. And one of the most traditional soups we call ajiaco. It doesn't have translation in English. And this is like the perfect demonstration of the mixture of the ingredients, because the corn came from Mesoamerica a lot of years ago. We have chicken that came from Europe. We have something called arracacha, which is quite similar to the potato, and it gives the texture and the color to the ajiaco. Also the avocado that comes from Mesoamerica, from Mexico, the rice that came from China, and this is one of our most traditional dishes, and it's a mixture, you know. So the local is more in the practices, you know. That's why I write here, the local is in the practice and the knowledge that is shared from generation to generation, and the mixtures. Maybe the local is not in the ingredients, but in the practice, in all the mixtures that the people put in a dish. And the notion of local, the concept of local, is also dynamic and full of symbolic meaning. and it have a big intangible value. So I think this is very important to take into account when we are talking about encouraging local production, because sometimes we can be very radical in our discourse about what it means to be local, and local is a mixture of everything. Now, I would like to share with you some strategies that we use here in Latin America, but especially in Colombia, to encourage the sustainable and community consumption. And this is a mixture between what is traditional and what is new. The innovation is in the mixture of both. One thing that is becoming a trend in this moment is the home gardens, like the urban agriculture. This is becoming a huge trend here in Latin America, not only in Bogota. And I have friends who are seed keepers, and they told me, like, I was talking a few weeks ago with a friend from Chile that she is a seed keeper, and she was amused. She was telling me, like, we never had sold so much seeds in the cities like in this moment, because a lot of people is interested in growing their own food. So this is a very popular trend. The other one is what we call in Spanish minga, and it doesn't have a translation in English because this came from the Inca, from the Quechua language, from indigenous language. So it means that, for instance, I don't know, I live in a rural place and I want to fix the road to arrive to my farm. So I call Hilma and I say, Hilma, please come to my farm, help me to fix the road. I cannot pay you with money, but if you help me, I will give you food or something like that. This is very common, and this is very similar to barter, which is exchange, but not with money. And also working in the chagra, which is the small space in the farm. The chagra also doesn't have a translation in English because it came from like an indigenous language, and it's very similar to what in Mexico they call the milpa. Let me show you very fast what is a milpa, because as I told you before, in Mesoamerica, which is Guatemala, Mexico, Honduras, Nicaragua, was developed the corn and the beans. So the milpa is a small place with a lot of diversity because the small farmers doesn't have so much space, and they have a lot of several cultures, like the chile, the pepper. It comes also from Mesoamerica and South America. So this is a traditional milpa. You can see the corn, the bean, the chile, and also in the chagra is very similar. It's a traditional production model developed by indigenous people a lot of time ago, even before that the Spanish people arrived to Latin America. So that's a chagra. It's very interesting because it's diverse, and it's the opposite of the traditional agro-industrial way to see the agriculture. And I think that maybe in Indonesia we can find systems very similar, like small pieces of lands with a lot of diversity. And that's why our diets are so diverse, because the food production is also very diverse. Another strategy are the local markets in rural places, like the traditional market. And this is very, very beautiful because it is not only the place where you can buy the food that you use to feed your family, it is also the place where people exchange information, knowledge, because normally these markets works only one day in the week. Normally it's the Saturday, which is the place where the day when the people came from their farms, because normally they live very far from from the cities. So the people travel that day to go to buy some things, also to sell some food, and they exchange information. So it also have like a cultural meaning and a social meaning for the people. And this is very popular here in Colombia. In the Amazon, we have an state named Caquetá, because in honor of the river Caquetá. And in the capital city, which is Florencia, it's very common that the people goes on the weekend to that local market to buy food. And this is very, very popular here in Colombia, that market. Another strategy, and this is not so much traditional, this is more a new strategy, is the community-supported agriculture. That in Colombia is not so strong as we can see in Chile, in France, in Spain, in the United States, where there are more strong this kind of strategies to support agriculture. And even in Ecuador, I have seen some interesting strategies. And what I like is that about this strategy is that it's built by the trust. So there are a lot of different ways to how a community-supported agriculture works, because it depends on the local arrangement that the people of that community develop. But normally what they do is that they give the money to the producer. For instance, I give the money, I don't know, I give $20 to the producer at the beginning of the month, but the producer gives me the food at the end of the month, because I trust that they are going to give me the food, and I trust that they give me what they grow up, a seasonal food, and I don't care what they are going to bring me, because I trust on them, and I trust that it's going to be fresh food and healthy food. And this is very good for the producer, because they don't have to go to ask loans in the bank to pay the normal expenditures that you have to pay workers, ingredients and things and material to work. And they guarantee that they have consumers for the food. This is very, very popular, but it's not so strong here in Colombia. But I think that it could be a very huge opportunity, because I have the feeling that the people, the consumers, are getting more curious about how they can support the local producers. Another strategy that is also more new, more result of an innovation, are the agroecological or collaborative markets. These are more common in the biggest cities, different than the local markets. These have a lot of different products, not only food. You can find handcraft, a lot of makeup, creams, a lot of different things, not only food, and also the gastronomic samples. And this is a very interesting opportunity to mix the gastronomy and the roots and the local and the traditional food. And the last one is the community purchase. And this is common in very isolated places, where the people have some difficulties to find some food, like, for instance, sugar. So they join all the community and they put the money in one place, and they ask to one people to go to the city to buy the sugar, for instance, and bring for everybody, and they share the sugar. And this allows them to reduce the cost of buying one thing, because if they buy in a huge amount, it's going to be cheaper. And also they strengthen the trust between the community, because normally it's difficult for the community to trust money, you know. So with these small actions, they strengthen the trust and the capability to develop community actions. So these are like some of the traditional and innovative strategies that are quite common here in Colombia. And now I will share some local experiences about sustainable and community consumption. All of them are here in Bogota or very close to Bogota, but you can find a lot of strategies all over Latin America and in Colombia. There are local, urban, collaborative and sustainable experiences. The first one is the Commit Salsa. There is a web platform where you can buy a lot of organic and local food. So you go to the page and you see like what is the vegetables and the fruits that they have in the week. You make the order and they bring you that to your house. And these have become very popular in these days with the COVID crisis, because the people doesn't want to go to the big market to buy their food. So this is like an opportunity to have access to food that you know that is going to be healthy, that doesn't have any toxic ingredients, and that you know that it's organic. There is also the agroecological market of Tierra Viva, that means like live earth. This is also in Bogota. This is a physical market that opens twice per month. And there you can find a lot of local and fresh food. But now, because of the crisis, they are selling also online and on WhatsApp, that these have become very popular. A lot of people is selling their products on WhatsApp because it's a very easy way. Like you can give the number to your customers, they told you what they need. You said one day to give the food, and it's very, very easy to develop in that way. The other one is As Chircales, and this is a very inspiring experience, because Bogota used to be a very popular brick production. So what they used to do was that they use the mountain to have the like the ingredient to the brick production. And then when a lot of international brick producers came to Colombia, it started to be less, it started to be cheaper to import the bricks. So they left alone the mountains, and they were very damaged. And this family that we are watching in the picture buy some land that was very damaged and start to develop an urban garden to teach the kids in the neighborhood how they can grow their own garden. And they also start to sell food to local people, and they have become very, very popular. There is also another interesting experience. This is not in Bogota, this is in La Calera, which is very close to Bogota. And what they do, this is an eco garden. So what they do is that, for instance, you want to grow food, but you feel that you don't have enough space in your house. So you go there and you rent an space, and they give you the tools, they give you the technical support, they give you the seeds, and you have a small space that you can visit on the weekends to grow your own food. And it have become very, very popular. And the last one is Amazonico. What they do is to encourage the recycling in Bogota, and it's a very interesting business model, because what they do is that they don't charge you any money to recycle and to pick the recycling material in your house. They do that for free. And even though if that is not enough, they give you a bonus of discount in very popular restaurant and stores here in Bogota. Because what they do is that they make like the promotion of these restaurants and places that are supporting the recycling. So you download the app in your cell phone, and you became a member of Amazonico, and you put the neighborhood where you live. So they give you 1 day to go to pick your material, and they make in charge to all the recycling process. It's a very interesting experience. And I think that the list can be very, very long about all the interesting and local experiences. And I think that the most important thing with this is to encourage the people to do like small actions, because sometimes we feel overwhelmed because in the news all the time we are finding bad news, hopeless news, and we say like, oh my God, the world is so bad that all the actions that I do are not going to be enough to change the world. But also it's very important to know that the local and the small actions are very powerful, and even more if we connected all those actions with other people that are also concerned. And that's what we do in Tres Colibris. We try to connect the people who are developing local actions, for they don't feel alone and they feel encouraged to do local actions to have a global impact. And especially in my country, this is very important because, as I told you before, we are one of the most biodiverse countries in the world. We have the 10% of the entire biodiversity in the world in such a small country. So we also have a very huge responsibility. Also, we have part of the Amazon forest. So we also have a responsibility not only with us, but with the entire world to take care of our forest, because the forests have a very important function, not only to guarantee the food diversity, but also the fight against the climate change. So this is a very important moment to take care of all the forest and to develop new ways to produce food, but also to consume food. And those were like the experiences that I wanted to share. I hope this is well right. Terima Karich, thank you so much. Gracias. And if you want to know more about these experiences or Tres Colibris, this is our website. It's in Spanish, but you can translate it. And this is my email. And thank you so much for this space and for this invitation. And I leave you with Hilma.
All right, great. Thank you, Anna, for sharing the insight and the experience from Latin America. So we have already questions here in the chat box I'm gonna read first, but before I'm gonna read the chat box, I haven't mentioned the GLF alumni to do photo session with us, and I'm also gonna call the people who are watching here from Mexico, from Japan, and India to turn your video on, and we have a brief photo session before we get to the Q&A session. And Yusuf has already left the meeting because it's already Fajr time there. He has to pray. So yeah, he said that this session is interesting and he will rejoin if it's possible. Okay. Hi Karati from Japan. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now Crystal from Mexico. Hi, thank you for joining us. And now we are gonna run to the Q&A. This is Crystal said that ajiaco, it's so delicious. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
And Yusuf also said that he agreed that urban agricultural is a thing now, especially in Cuba. And
yes.
then there is a question from Rama. How you build the understanding among the farmer and community about needs, especially food, rather than money. I am impressed on how the awareness and understanding that raise in trust among the community.
Wow, that's a tricky question because here we are how to explain. The drugs production is a very huge problem here in Colombia. We are one of the biggest producers of cocaine, that is used to grow cocaine. So this is a very difficult problem because the cocaine production is very profitable. And I am not saying that all the people is producing cocaine in Colombia, because that's not true. As I told you before, we have a lot of biodiverse agriculture, but this is a huge problem because as I told you, we don't have support from the government. So the people who are hopeless because they don't have money to pay the education for the kids, they don't have money for anything because it's very difficult to develop a small agriculture. They find a very profitable way in the drug production because they made a lot of money with that, and very easy because grow coke is easier than grow coffee, than grow potato, another crop, because it's a very resilient crop. So this have become a big challenge for us to invite the people to produce other things that are less profitable. And that's why we have also a lot of experience accompany this kind of process, because you have to see this as a process and a long-term process. You cannot expect that the people is going to understand that it's not only about the money, and you also have to support them to find profitable opportunities because they need to eat, they need to send their kids to the school, and they have the right to have the same dreams and goals that we have in the city. So I think that the most important thing is to develop like a life project, and sometimes to develop a community life project helps a lot when you realize that also the cultural, the spiritual, the political dimensions of life are very important. That's a beginning. But this is all a process, and the profitable part is very important. That's why we have a big armed conflict. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Mas Rama, if you have another insight, you can share it after this, yeah? And the next question is from Pak Reddy Miras. He is from Bandung. How a simple way of arousing the habit of people consuming organic food or local food under the pressure of consuming fast food as the habit of globalization?
Well, this is also a big challenge because normally people think that the fast food is better because they develop like huge marketing strategies that are all over the places, and people think that is more nice. You know, this is also a very cultural thing, that you are going to be recognized if you are eating Coke in McDonald's. So the first thing that we are trying to do here in Colombia is to recognize the role of the local producers, to say like, if you are buying to the small farmer, you are not making a favor to the small producer, you are making a favor to you because you are eating healthy and sustainable food. And this is also a process, and I think that it is also very important to develop marketing strategies, but not in the same way that Coca-Cola does or big companies does, but encouraging the people to build communities. And this is why the local markets are so important, the local and the agroecological markets, because the people have the opportunity to talk with the producer. And when you talk with the producer and the producer talks with the consumer, you start to build new relationships, trust relationship, when you became the friend of the producer, and even the producer gives you tips to grow the food in your home. You start to have a new way to relate with the food, and this is also a process. So yes, I think that marketing relationships marketing strategies are important, but also strengthening the local markets.
Yeah. All right. Now from Pak Aris Baharyono, where is the key to sustainability in agriculture presented?
Wow. I think that there is not only one answer to that, but I think that it's a mixture of knowledge, you know, like our ancestors have a lot of knowledge that they have developed through doing a lot of years about what is to take care about the soils, to take care of the forest, but also there are new innovations because agroecology is a new science, and it have bring a lot of knowledge to the small farmers to develop new techniques to take care of the soils. So I think that it could be like a mixture, you know, a mixture of strategies, and don't be scared to make experimentations in your soil, that be very curious and be very creative and be very bold, and also sharing experiences with other people. I could say that agroecology can give us a lot of strategies about how to take care about our soils, not only in rural, but also in urban context.
Yeah. Okay. Another question here from Shelton CB, DGLF alumni. Artificial intelligence has been a disruptive technological change in this century that many of the present generation leaders are facing. Will this impact the greener jobs in the years to come?
Wow. Well, I don't know. In the reality of my country, I think that we have other priorities. I mean, the artificial intelligence is very important, and is very common in some places, like in the agro-industrial and in the big productions. It's very common to see these kind of technologies, but then we see like a huge distance between the access to technologies that have the local producers and the one that have the agro-industrial producers, because sometimes the small farmers don't even have access to internet. They don't even have access to communication with others. So I think that first is very important to guarantee the rights to the people, and then we start to make other questions like how to implement artificial technology. And also because in this moment is a huge concern that we are, I don't know, maybe the first place in the world that the local leaders have been murdered because our armed conflict. And also we are the first country in the world with interdisplacement. We have even more displacement than Syria, and this is such a huge problem. So I think that when we are facing this kind of social problems, the technology have to develop to solve these problems. I am not saying that artificial intelligence is not important, but I am saying that we have other priorities. The children are not having access to education. They are facing a lot of challenges to find jobs, to find ways to make money. So I think this is our priority in this moment.
All right. Okay. Then there is a comment from Rama, the first question. He said that what the challenge you have there, and I think your progress is huge to raise the understanding and awareness, because for me, awareness and understanding is the key to bring changes. Estupendo. Okay, and then one last question from Crystal Rosas. How do they contact the communities and what strategies do they use with them? And how do you decide if the production is for city commerce or local commerce, or it's only for the cities?
Okay, let me see. I will read it because I think there are a lot of questions in this question. How do we contact the communities? Well, that's an interesting question. I studied sociology and business administration, and I made my internship in a social organization in the south of my country, in the state of Nariño. And there I had the first contact with local communities and we became friends, and I think that's something that made Tres Colibris a different organization, because we don't see the communities as the people who is going to be the beneficiaries of a project. They are our friends. That's why we work among networks. And it was the beginning, and then the path of Tres Colibris have been very related with my own path as a consultant, because I start to work with local communities all over the country, and the majority have faced armed conflict. So we became good friends, and I think that's why we have developed long-term relationships, because it's not something like, oh, sorry, the project have finished, so I cannot talk with you, or I cannot give you advice or, I don't know, tips. No, we became friends. And this is very important, because in the moment that you start to see the other as someone who also can teach you, and you stop thinking like, because they are from rural places, they don't have anything to teach me. But when you start to see the humanity of the other, and I think that have been a very beautiful learning that the armed conflict have give us, and is to see the human part of the other. So we have become good friends, and we start to develop new projects, new things, and that's how the network works. They start to be bigger and bigger and bigger, and one friend calls you to do one thing and one project. And the majority of the things that we have developed in Tres Colibris have been in a collaborative and solidarity way. And we built long-term relationships with the local communities. And also, one thing that was very important is that I developed like a backpack trip all over Latin America, from Mexico to Peru by myself. And that's why I know some experience in Latin America. And during this trip, I had the opportunity to share experiences with people from different places, indigenous from Costa Rica, small farmers from Mexico, and we became friends, and the network started to make bigger and bigger and bigger. And how do you decide if the production is for city commerce or local commerce, or is only for cities? This is a very interesting question, because we developed some workshop which is dedicated how to build marketing strategies with local producers. And this is one of the biggest questions that the communities have, like, how do I know if I should be exporting or selling in local markets? Because when you talk with the local producers, the majority wants to sell to Europe, because there is where the money is, but not everybody have the capabilities and the volume to sell in other countries. So I could say that the skills of the organization, the volume of the production, and also the kind of product that you are trying to sell give you like tips to identify your market. There are some situation which is more strategical to sell in local markets because the costs are lower. But if you sell products that are transformed and that can give you a big money benefit, you can think in sell to other markets. But yes, normally what we do is to define that according to the reality of the organization, because I don't think that this could be like one recipe that you can adapt for all the local producers. You have to study those factors, you know, like the volume, the product, the skills of the organization, and the cost. And then you can decide where is more strategical to sell the products.
All right. Well, so it started all with friendship, right? Be friend with the community, and then things will go like. So if it's how to encouraging the sustainable consumption in community, is the key point is from starting with befriending with the community. So then our friends here who are working for plantation companies have a great chance to do that because they live around the community, and they can do what the steps that you've mentioned. And Pak Dwi, maybe you have some insight to share, or?
Yeah. Thank you for your presentation, Anna. It was very inspiring to learn about how is your effort and your groups provocate the consumption, local consumption. You mentioned about the huge effort made by global players in terms of food industries. They develop variety of marketing strategies that make people feel proud to consume any fast food, any outside or global food of any kind. With that global intervention until the very local communities, I think in Indonesian case, for example, many community feel proud to consume any food that coming from cities, any food coming from industries produced by global players, multinational corporation. Sometimes we face very contradictory things. Yeah, in one side, community very eagerly consume outside food, industrial food, because with industrial food consumption, they associate this consumption with the pride, with the maybe with the what you call it, with the feeling of developed community. So that one side, but on the other side, many community apparently forget the root of the food they have. They do not plan anymore any local food or local plan for food, etc. So how you deal with that contradiction? In one side, you want to promote the community local food consumption, but on the other side, sometimes community want to consume food coming from outside. How to manage this kind of challenging contradiction?
Yeah, one strategy very useful is to work in the schools with the local gardens. This is such a huge and successful strategy because you start to show that as a game. So the children start to have fun with the seeds, with the crops, and then they go to their families to say like, oh, this is what I learned, and they start to practice. So through the game and make it fun is very important. And also some strategy that I used to practice was to make like the how to say in English, like gastronomical presentations where the people present to others in the community the local dishes. So through the gastronomy, you can encourage the people like to remember the roots and to share the histories, because something very powerful about the food is that food also mean memories. And through the memory, when you were a child and you were cooking with your grandmother or your mother and you were tasting that dish, this is also a very interesting, and I think that the most important thing is to make it fun. Also develop orchards, like gardens in the farms, is very, very important, and also working with women, because they are the ones who stay the majority of the time in the farms, and they can, when they start to have fun, like growing new foods. And it's very important to grow food that they like, because I don't know, for instance, if you give the seed of tomato to a family that doesn't like to eat tomato, it doesn't make sense, because they are going to be growing the food only to do something, but they are not going to enjoy. But if you grow something that they really like, and you start to practice new dishes that you can make with those seeds and with those crops that you are giving to them, and you are showing the fun side of this, and especially because the people in rural place normally doesn't have so much free time, because they are working the majority of the time. So it is not easy to create a workshop with the people to say like, we are going to take all the day to create a workshop, because the time costs money for them. Normally, when you create a workshop with the people, it means that there is one day that they are not going to be earning money. So you have a huge responsibility to make it work, it worth it, and also make it fun. So I think it's very important to encourage women and also youth and children, because normally when you are doing a workshop with women, they bring the kids. And so
exactly,
sometimes we used to say like, oh, they bring the kid, know what I'm going to do. But if even instead of saying that, you start to bring the kids to have fun, this is going to be very successful, because from the beginning, the younger generations are going to be having fun, growing the local food and eating the local food. And also the last thing that is also very important is to work in the self-esteem of the people, because normally in Latin America, it's very common that we think that the white people and the people from the city are the most important, and the people from the rural places are less important, because this is a cultural heritage, you know?
Right.
So if we start to identify all those beautiful things that people have, is going to be related, because they find the value on themselves. So it is not only an agricultural work, but also an spiritual and emotional work that you start to develop.
All right, thank you, Anna. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Dwi. And another question here from Charlton CB. Microcredit system and credit enablers have jointly become an integral part of revolutionizing rural production. Anna, how do you relate to this with the Colombian context? Are the policymakers promoting such financing solutions in your country?
Yes, this is a very difficult issue, because in my country, the policymakers used to give credits to the big land tenure, to the big industries.
Yeah.
And for the small farmers, it's very difficult. And even if you are a woman, it's even more difficult, because it's very difficult to have access to land, to credits. So there are some strategies. Let me think how to translate to English, because it's like an autonomous group of saving. There is an organization from Germany, maybe you have listened them, because they have projects in Asia and in Africa. They are Village Saving and Loan. And we developed in Nariño a video. I can share it with you, but it's in Spanish, about an experience of local credits developed by the community. The amounts are not so much, and it's the people who start to save money. Twice per week they join and they start to save like $2, $10. It depends on the availability of money that the small producer have. And then after 8 months, they have some money saved. And this is very interesting because sometimes the problem is not only that people cannot access to money, it's also that they are not expending the money in a very wise way. It's very common in the rural places that men use the money to get drunk in the weekend. So when they start to get used to save money, it's very common that men say like, I am not going to get drunk this weekend and I am going to use this money to save. So they create a culture of saving money. And I think this is also an opportunity to strengthen the community capabilities to develop community projects and stop to be waiting to what is going to give me the government or an NGO, because they are building local skills. And I really, really recommend you to find that experience. Village Saving and Loan is the organization. In Colombia, it was the Suyusama Foundation, the one who was using that way to encourage the local saving, and people can ask loan to the people in the community. For instance, that something that is very common is that you have to pay for the health services of a family member who is sick, but you don't have money. So you go to the community and you ask for a loan, and they give it to you, and you have to give it that with a interest rate that is fixed by the community, and it works really, really well.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Shelton CB, for the question. So I guess we have no more question here in chat box. And I think are there anyone who wants to share insight or experience from the audience? Okay. I think if there is no further question or insight, I'm gonna thank you for Anna. I'm gonna thank Anna for the session and for the great presentation to share this insight with us, because yeah, being a food savvy is really important, and to encourage other people to consume in a sustainable or responsible ways, yeah, we should start with ourselves, because it's really important to pay attention to our plate, as it is the source of all mood that will affect our daily life. It's in the book. The title is, I read this book, the title is Good Mood Food. And it talks about how the enzymes and the food that we take can play an important role with our emotions and our concentration and our focus. Yeah, what is this? Village Saving and Loan? Oh, okay.
Yes, this is the video about microfinances and local saving, but it is in Spanish. But maybe you can find useful information about how to strengthen the local saving and access to credits in the communities.
Okay. All right, then. Pak Dwi,
Yeah.
anything else you want to share before we are closing?
No, I think thank you very much, Anna. Hopefully we can develop another discussion with a similar topic next time. So we appreciate for sharing your knowledge and experience. And we hope also participants here will learn from Anna and maybe get ideas how we can support and we can facilitate community to take benefit of their own resources and fulfilling their own needs in terms of food and something like that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anna.
So much for the invitation.
Our
Thank
pleasure.
Pak also. And I'm gonna remind you about the e-certificate. You can fill the forms here in the chat box, upload it with the session, the screenshot session with the Zoom meeting. And I'm gonna send you the e-certificate by the next 2 or 3 days. So I guess how to encourage sustainable consumption, as Anna mentioned before, we can start with befriending the community, right? And then we can start it from school with little children, and it takes process, and it takes time, of course. But as long as we are committed to it, it will happen, and it will be a great success, right? So thank you, Anna. Thank you thank you again for the session, and thank you everyone for joining us today from all over Indonesia and then other parts of the world. And I'm really glad to have you guys here today. And yeah, I think that is it. So good morning, good night for Anna, and have a great day.
Thank
Gak
you.
foto?
Bye.
Bye.
Gak
Bye-bye.
foto kita?
Ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Karati.
Bye, Kak Ana.